Alright, welcome back to the Kerbal Space Program. Today we're going to try to bang out some quick science flights in order to progress through our tech tree. Honestly, what I'm trying to get to is some more suitable fuel lines in order to really push the program out into the solar system. I also prefer the extra fuel lines for making a quick launch platform where I can start setting up rendezvous flights in space. So since we have 89 science and each of these costs 45, the quickest thing we can do here is going to be to research some more science gathering materials. Specifically the Science Junior is what I'm after. This will unlock some landing gear, handholds, which are actually very useful. The mobile processing lab is something I am not familiar with, so that'll be interesting. It has a crew capacity, if nothing else. And lighting is always good, some solar panels, which will be nice for when we actually have something up in space for any length of time. Alright, so to do a couple of quick science missions here. Start with our command pod. Go ahead and throw a couple of batteries on there just in case. Science. Let's put the Science-tron on. Some landing struts. New to this release is you can select how you want your landing struts to start. So we'll go ahead and start them just like that. And that should be good to get the science we need to push us into the next tech tree. So we'll go ahead. We'll retract the landing gear. We'll observe the material bay. Study from the launch pad shows little signs of change, though one of the samples appear to be judging you silently. That's going to be 7.5 science, which is going to be more than enough for what we need. Now we'll take that same craft. Throw a parachute on there. Same thing we had done last time. When we're on the launch pad, we want these two to fire first, so that when these two fire, we'll be able to pitch to the 90 degree, if memory serves. Good. And we're hopefully going to go ahead and use the material bay at the peak of our flight. Although I don't think I'm going to get into orbit, I will most definitely be able to get into a sub-orbit, which ought to be good enough for the science bay, and then hopefully that parachute will hold. So without further ado, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait for those to just burn out. Excellent. There is something awesome about nighttime launches that I really enjoy. We're going to be coming up on the 12-kilometer mark. We'll get ready to pitch that over. Just shy of our 90-degree heading, but that's still all right. Pull open our map, looking at our controls. We're starting to fall over just a little bit, and that's alright. Our app oasis is coming up. Remember, 70 is the exit of the atmosphere. I normally like to hold it around 100. So we're going to throttle down a little bit, and we're going to pitch over 90 degrees, which is going to widen up our arc here, without giving us as much in the height department, which will make it easier once we get closer to our app oasis to turn this into an orbit. I'm thinking around 150. I'm going to go ahead and cut the engines for now. Used up a good chunk of our fuel. Remember, of course, that we don't have any extra tanks, so if we burn all of our fuel to get into an orbit, we won't be able to bring them back down. But at 150, that should be good enough to give us the scientific data we're looking for. Actually, I don't even think I'm going to bring it any higher than this. Instead, on our way down, I'm going to wait until we're through the atmosphere. I think we're going to go up to a 90-degree pitch, and I am going to fire the rocket to help slow us down so there's not as much strain on the parachute. Again, I'm not entirely sure if the parachute will be able to hold the added weight. Now, as of right now, it looks like we would splash down around here, which is dead in the ocean, so we are actually going to have to widen that a little bit when we get closer to the app oasis. I always call it an app oasis, and that is technically the wrong pronunciation, so I'm sorry for that, but that's just the way I was raised. In space near Kerbin, which will be 25 science. I don't know if I can recover vessels from the surface, so maybe our next launch will put a science module underneath with a parachute. We'll take an observation while we're flying, and we'll jettison it and see whether or not we can switch over and recover it. I know if I put a probe control system on there, I should almost definitely be able to do it. But I don't know if I can if it's just sitting out there. So we could try that for to advance our own knowledge as opposed to just the Kerbals. Alright, so T minus 41 seconds. We're going to go ahead. We're going to point prograde. Give us just a little bit of oomph. Hopefully bring us over a nice landmass. Because, I mean, really, what's the point of putting landing gear on to crash into the water, right? Right. So that'll put us about on the shoreline. That should put us firmly within that continent. Gonna go ahead and pitch up. Just because I don't know how much time I'll have later, I'll extend the landing gear now. Or maybe I won't. There we go. Without any control surfaces, it's going to be very difficult to get this rocket to stay the way we want it. But again, since we're not really going for a powered descent, we're just going to try to bleed off some speed. It's not going to be that big of a deal. Now, if we were doing a powered descent onto a celestial body, we'd want to start with a lot more thrust closer to the surface, and we would just be trying to keep our thrust going in the retrograde motion as indicated on our gimbal here to kill any form of lateral speed we might have in order to make a nice gentle touchdown. But of course, we are not trying to make a gentle touchdown. At least not with our engine still engaged. So it's less important, but good practice for sure. Not entirely sure of how high the terrain is here. I don't want to risk our parachutes not opening. Oh, and that was very stupid. Very, very stupid. A keen observer might realize what I did there. I left the rocket on when I went to jettison it, so now we are going for a terrible ride. And that potentially could have ended the mission. Fortunately, it was on low thrust and low on fuel when I made that terrible, terrible, terrible mistake. But it looks like we'll be okay. We'll survive it, and better that it happens here in an atmosphere where I have parachutes that I was pretty sure would hold us, and not when we're trying to land on another body. So we'll touch down here. The Highlands, I believe we already have the Highlands, so I will do it from landed on the surface, which, why not? There we go, a nice soft touchdown, and a small 1.5, even less to not even be flying over it. But that's alright. Small glitch, but we survived. Everything went well. We'll go ahead, recover the vessel. And 27.8 science for that. Not great, but far and above what we needed to get the next tree, and puts us pretty close to the one after that. This tech tree here does give us some good rocketry stuff down the way, but next up is just a fuel tank, which we could actually make ourselves. It is just 2 fuel tanks put together. It's just easier to put a single piece than it is the doubles. So there's no real advantage to that. The winglets are actually quite useful. People who played the original demo know that these winglets were your main way to land on the moon, which was pretty fantastic. We also get the jet cockpit, which would allow us to pick up samples from like the ice caps and whatnot. It's easier to fly there in a space plane than it is in a rocket. So that'll leave us off for now. I think we're going to actually go ahead and just grab the struts, the coupler, the tri-coupler, and the decoupler. And that'll be it. Alright, thanks for watching.